Is the screen visible? Is my screen visible to you guys? Okay. Please type in your name, enrollment number, and section in the chat box of Meet. Okay, so let's begin today's class. Uh, we have discussed method overloading as well as method overriding. Okay, so let's try to summarize the key points uh, that differ or that differentiate apart method overloading with method overriding. So if you look at this particular code, which is demo overloading, we know that we share the name of the method. For example, the add is the name of the method that takes two integer parameters. Another add method takes two floating point parameters. Okay. Maybe another add method that takes two string parameters. Add method that takes three integer parameters, and so on. So we call the method as overloaded method when the name is shared, the name of the method is shared, that is the same name of the method is given for more than one method, but the parameter list, this list, the parameter list differs either in number of elements, number of parameters, or the type of parameters. Okay? The type of parameter further means that if even the position of the parameter is changed, that also matters. For example, there is one add method, and this add method, I think we have already written the calculator class. Let's see if we have got. No, we don't have. So, for example, we have an add method where, say, first parameter is an integer type, and the second parameter is of a floating point type, float, right? Uh, and then we return a plus b. Of course, we need a floating point because the result of the addition of integer and floating point is a float. So the error goes, the compilation error goes. Now, if we just copy this method again and make a slight change, like first parameter is a floating point number and the second parameter is an integer number. So these two methods are also overloaded methods. The number of parameters are same. That one of the parameter takes integer, the other parameter takes floating point number. Here also one parameter takes integer, the other takes floating point number, but their position change. So the change of position basically is an indication of change of type. Okay. The return type does not matter. If we somehow change the return type, for example, this add method has got the return type of a string, whereas this add method has got the return type of float. This add method has got the return type of integer. So the return type does not participate in the decision of method overloading, right? Any questions till this point? Any questions, guys? All okay? Now, when we start discussing about method overriding, so we know that we were talking about a method which is defined in the parent class, for example, this eat method, and the same name is shared in the child class, say for example, the domestic animal class, which extends the animal class. So here we don't have the eat method. So the eat method which is coming from the animal class, that becomes a part of the domestic animal. Now let's go a little below. Say for example, for cow, here also we have got the eat method. So this eat method and the one which has been defined in the eat method, they both have the same name. The animal class, which is the grandparent parent class, has got a eat method with the same signature, right? Whereas the cow class, which is the grandchild class, also has the eat method with the same signature. Signature is exactly same. That means the parameter doesn't changes. Okay. So if we have, say for example, this eat method with say another definition, which is a different list of parameters, void eat, okay, and it has got a parameter, say string name of food, and instead of printing cow eating cow food, we are cow eating grass in lawn. We print cow eating, and then let's add the name of the food, name of food. Okay. Now tell me, are these two methods, this eat method and this eat method, are they overridden methods, guys? Are these two methods are the overridden methods, both the methods? Am I audible, guys? Am I audible?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so my question is, now we see this eat method is of course an overridden method from the animal class, right? Whatever the method that we have defined in the animal class, we have changed the definition of the eat method. And when we change the definition of the eat method, that means we do something else in the eat method, which is in the child class, we call it overridden method, right? So of course, this eat method is the overridden version of the eat method, which is present in the animal class. What about this eat method? Now we have got two eat methods in the cow class. Can we say that this method is also an overridden method of the eat method, which is available in the animal class? Anyone, please? Are you guys even there?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so just respond yes or no, whether you know or you do not know, whatever. My question is, this cow class has got eat method. This cow class overrides the eat method, which is being inherited from the animal class, right? But what about this eat method?
सर कर रहा है ओवरराइड.
No, this is not overriding. This is overloading because the name of the parameter now changes. Number of parameters changes. Here, the animal method had no parameters, that is zero parameters, right? Zero parameters. The one eat method that we have provided here in the first eat method, it also doesn't have any parameter. That means this method also has got zero parameters. So of course, the whole signature is same. So this eat method is basically an overridden version of the eat method which we have provided in the animal class. But here it's an overloaded method. It's an overloaded method of the eat method that is available over here. Correct?
सर ओवरलोड और ओवरराइड में डिफरेंस क्या होगा?
अभी सबसे पहले उसी से शुरू किया था बेटा, बताना। ओवरलोड में आपको बताया कि जो प्रीवियस एग्जाम्पल आपको दिया था, see, you see the calculator class, right? Here what we have done, we are talking about the calculator class where we have got several add methods. So the name is being shared. The same name is there, add being repeated. But either the number of parameters changes or the type of parameter changes. Like here in this add method at line number 4 and in this add method at line number 19, the number of parameters changes, or in line number 16, the number of parameters changes, right? In line number 4 and line number 8, the type of parameter changes, the number doesn't changes. Okay. Similarly, here also in line number 24, 5 and line number 28, if you see, the number of parameter doesn't changes, the type of parameter changes in terms of positions. So at least there is a swapping of positions. The first parameter is of integer type in the first add method, and the second parameter is a floating point type in the add method. Whereas in the add method, which is defined, which starts at line number 28, that has got a swap. That means first parameter is float, the second is integer. So that also counts in the change of the parameter. And I told you that the return type doesn't matter over here. ठीक है, कभी आपका रिटर्न टाइप इंटीजर हो, फ्लोट हो, स्ट्रिंग हो, वो मेथड ओवरलोडिंग के डिसीजन में पार्ट नहीं कर रहा है, राइट? Of course, the name is same. When we talk about the method overriding, then in that case, what happens is there is a method with a name in the parent class, and there is a method which is in the child class or grandchild class, which has got the same name again, just like the overloading method overloading. But the signature, the first line, the declaration of the method, that doesn't change. That means if the animal eat method doesn't have any arguments, any parameters rather, then the overridden method, this one is the overridden method at line number 15, it also doesn't have any change in number of parameter or type of parameters. Clear?
Yes, sir.
But here in the second case, you see, this is an overloaded version of the eat method which is available in the cow class, because it has got one parameter. So the number of parameter changes. Okay. That's clear है? आप टेस्ट एनिमल
Yes,
क्लास
sir.
में क्या करोगे? टेस्ट एनिमल क्लास में अगर a.eat कॉल कर रहे हो तो वो कौन सा मेथड कॉल होगा? That has got a single, that has got no parameters, right? But if you want to call a method on the cow object that has got one parameter, then you will say a4 dot. You can see it has two eat method. One is this. It must it must also have another eat method. We have defined in cow class or what class? In cow class, right? So test animal. Let's go to the test animal class. Control S. Control space. One eat method, and it should also show the other eat method. Okay. Everybody eat. Okay, yeah, it will not show here. Okay, just a second. It will show in case if you have reference type as cow, p is equal to new cow. Okay. P dot. Now you can see there is a eat method, which is a no work parameterized method. Here it is a single argument method that takes one argument. So if you want to call this, you have to pass something. You have to pass food, say for example grass. You have to pass the name of the food also. Okay. Clear? So this is a call to the overloaded method which takes one parameter. That's clear है?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Suppose we don't have this eat method, which is the overridden version of the animal class. Now, what about this? Do we still call it overridden method or overloaded method?
Sir, overloaded method.
Again, overloaded method, and the overloading is compared with the eat method, which takes no parameter and is coming from the animal class. ठीक है? तो एक मिथ है, एक रॉन्ग परसेप्शन है, अक्सर स्टूडेंट्स में होता है कि ओवरलोडिंग कैन बी डन ओनली इन द सेम क्लास, whereas overriding is associated with a number of classes or class hierarchy. ठीक है? ओवरराइडिंग के बारे में आप सही हैं, but overloading can happen in sub classes also. If you change the number of parameters, then it will not remain overriding, it will become overloading. ठीक है? Because in the test animal class, still you can see, if you just uh, press control space on in the ID on using the C, the reference variable, which is of the type cow, then you can see, still you can see two versions. This each method, you can see it's showing hyphen animal, that this each method is coming from the animal class but available to the cow class, right? And this each method you have defined in the cow class itself. But two versions, if you can see the two versions, then the display of the two versions is still itself, it's an indicative of overloading, method overloading. ठीक है? आपको दो वर्जन मिल रहा है, आप दोनों में से कोई भी कॉल करने के लिए फ्री है. आप ये भी कॉल कर सकते हैं और आप p dot heat ये भी कॉल कर सकते हैं, right? And you can pass grass, for example, as previously. You have two methods to call with the same name, right? But the first eat method has not been overridden in the cow class. This is still the same method which is available in the animal class, which is coming from or inherited from the animal class. And this is the overloaded method which you have choose to overload in the cow class, and the overloading is done to the method which has been inherited from the animal class. Clear है?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me put this code in comment. Now we know that the return type does not participate in the decision of method overloading, right? Okay. What about method overriding? If we just forget about this method for a while, let me put it in block code. So we have got just one method, which is overridden method of the eat method, which is coming from the animal class. Correct? Now, if we change the return type, so can we do it? What do you think? In method overloading, even the method name is same, the parameters are exactly same, then the return type doesn't matter. That will not be method overloading. If the parameters are different in either number of elements or parameters or the type of parameters or the position of the parameters with the change in type, then even if we change the return type, it won't affect the code. Okay? But what about this method overriding? The return type for the animal class was void. The same signature, exactly the same signature, public void eat with no parameter. And in the cow class also, we have got the same signature, public void eat with no parameter. Exactly the same thing. If we want to change this return type, so can we do it, or will it affect the code in any way?
Sir, I think affect the code.
How? Let's say we do not
Eh,
want, yeah, yes, yes. Tell me. Let's say we want to return this string instead of printing it within the method. Okay. We control V. Want to return this string method. And if you want to return this string, then return type also must be string. Compilation error goes from here, but it's shifted to this place. The return type is incompatible with animal.eat. See, it's giving a message that the return type is string that you have defined is incompatible, that is not compatible, that is not okay with animal.eat. The overridden method, you have overridden this method eat, you have shared the name, the number of parameters are also same. अगर नंबर ऑफ पैरामीटर डिफर करते तो क्या होता, तब मेथड ओवरलोडिंग हो जाता। लेकिन ये मेथड ओवरलोडिंग नहीं है, तो ये क्या होगा, इट मस्ट बी मेथड ओवरराइडिंग। द कंपाइलर नोज दिस, if the method parameters either their number or type doesn't change, then it must be method overriding, otherwise it's a duplicate method. So the compiler knows this, so it knows because this is the overridden method, it's in the child class, so the return type is string is incompatible with animal.eat method. That means the return type what animal.eat method provides. So the eat method in animal class is void. If I change it to a string, the return type changes, and that's not compatible. वो compatible नहीं है। अगर हम इसकी जगह कुछ और करते हैं, फॉर एग्जाम्पल we have in the animal class we have got the return type, say for example, it doesn't make sense, but just for the sake of example, let me say the return type is say animal class itself. Okay, let's say, and it is returning a new object of animal class. What will compile? Everything will be okay, right? Guys, ये समझ में आ रही है? It doesn't make any sense.
Yes, sir.
That I am returning eat method, I'm returning from the eat method an instance of animal class. It's just for the experimental purpose, which probably will make sense in some other scenario, right? So just for the sake of example, let's say that this eat method, which is available in the animal class, the supermost class, the parent class, returns something of the type animal. And to satisfy this return statement, we have returned a new animal object. Okay? Irrespective of what it does. Okay? Now what happens in wild animal? You see, here also you have got the eat method, which is the child of animal class. It says the return type is incompatible with animal.eat. Okay? Because the return type was animal. Now you have changed to void here. It is still assuming that this eat method is an overridden version. It's an override of the eat method, but the return type is not compatible. Same goes for cow. It's a string, right? This return type is also not compatible. So what we can do to make it compatible? Let's say if this return type is, for example, wild animal, and we return something of the type wild animal, for example, Control C, new wild animal. Okay, and what happens? Let's see.
So return.
Return. We have to put a return, right? Return. Now see, the error goes. So what does the compatibility mean here? Either you should have exactly the same signature along with the same return type, or if the return type changes, then it must be compatible to the return type of what the parent class each method has. And the compatibility again has the same definition that the super type is compatible with all the objects of child type. So if it's just like saying you know, that animal class object A can hold a parameter of an object of wild animal class. That will make sense. A parent class reference type or super type reference type can hold a reference to the child type. Okay? Correct? ये
यस
लाइन
सर।
सही है ना, लाइन नंबर 9 सही है। तो जैसे ये लाइन नंबर 9 सही है, तो यहाँ से रिटर्न क्या हो रहा है, वाइल्ड एनिमल का ऑब्जेक्ट रिटर्न हो रहा है, राइट। द ऑब्जेक्ट विच इज बीइंग रिटर्न इज वाइल्ड एनिमल, and the object which is in the animal class, the expectation is an animal, right? Correct. Say for example, in cow, you are returning, instead of even cow, if you return a lion, okay, and you say it's returning a new lion, which is again a child of animal class. Doesn't matter, it's compatible because lion is ultimately the child of animal class. ठीक है, यहाँ पे आपको दिक्कत हो रही है, लाइन में वर्ड रिटर्न कर रहा है तो दिक्कत हो रही है. वी आर नॉट वरीड अबाउट इट एज ऑफ नाउ. ओके, लेट्स टॉक अबाउट टेस्ट एनिमल क्लास. तो आपने कहा एनिमल A5 इज इक्वल टू, और एनिमल से A4 इज इक्वल टू न्यू काउ. तो A4 डॉट हीट, ठीक है, हीट को अगर आप कॉल कर रहे हैं तो इट्स रिटर्निंग एनीथिंग, एंड देन यू कैन स्टोर दैट एनीथिंग इनटू एनिमल रेफरेंस वेरिएबल. A this makes sense because this A for eat is the first method, that eat that you have defined is in the animal class, and that animal class has said that I am okay with anything, returning anything which is an animal. So whether I return animal, or I return domestic animal, or I return a wild animal, or I return a cow or lion or goat, they all are okay. So in this animal class, it's returning animal. In the child class, which is wild animal, it is returning wild animal. In the child class, which is cow, it's probably returning a new, the third subclass, which is the lion class, which is also compatible. ठीक है, कंपेटेबिलिटी तभी तक यहाँ पे वैलिड रहेगी जब तक आप सुपर टाइप के को सब चाइल्ड आप सब टाइप रिटर्न कर रहे हैं. while you're returning the subtype, that is compatible. You don't have to touch the number of parameter or type of parameter. That should not be touched because this is method overriding and not method overloading. Method overloading was not about the return type, but method overriding means the return type must be exactly the same or at least compatible. And compatible means it should be of the same nature, should satisfy the either relationship. That means if this eat method is an overridden version of the eat method of the animal class, then it should return an object which is animal, which is a relationship with the animal class. Guys, okay?
यस सर।
थोड़ा कंफ्यूजिंग है, बट ये सारी बारीकियां हैं. ठीक है, एनी डाउट सो फोर्थ? So if I give you any code, for example, in the test, and if I ask you that tell me whether this is method overloading, whether this is method overriding, or whether this is a valid method overriding or a valid method overloading, or to which method I can assume it's to be an overloaded method or overridden method, then would you be able to answer all these questions?
यस सर।
बहुत धीमी आवाज आ रही है, कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं हुआ है.
सर कॉन्फिडेंट नहीं है, आज थोड़ा पढ़ेंगे ना तो हो जाएगा कॉन्फिडेंट।
हाँ, पढ़ोगे तो समझ में आएगा, बट यू वोंट फाइंड दीज थिंग्स वेरी इजिली अवेलेबल इन बुक्स, ये बता दो. ठीक है, सो एनीवेज, that's one reason why I do not push too much on books. You can have your own any book that you are comfortable with. Just don't go with books like Bal Goswami or like that. I don't prefer those books. Uh, they are not worth putting much of the effort. So follow a standard book, whatever book you follow. I have also shared one book. That is, I find it good. So if you like, you can go with that, or you can go with complete reference, or you can go for any of the certification books. So they are also good. Okay. So let's uh, make the code, you know, as it was looking previously, so that we do not have the discrepancy. Let's say start from the same point where we started. But in that case, you will lose the changes. You will have to see in the video itself. Okay. Now, till now, when we were talking about method overloading and or method overriding, and we have seen a lot of differences in them. We also know that method overloading is something which is a static binding, and method overriding is something which is a dynamic binding. That means the call in the case of method overriding or the method call dispatch, what you call it, that happens at the time of the execution of the program. The program is running. So we were mostly concerned about the right hand side of these lines, line number 27, line number 29, or line number, you know, uh, 36, and so on. So we were mostly concerned about the right hand side in method overloading. Sorry, in method overriding. That whatever is the object, depending upon the object, the call will be dispatched to the particular each method, which is either in the class of the object type itself, or which is the nearest to it. Okay? In the class array. Now we will try to understand what happens to the code, or what is the impact of the code which is on the left hand side. That is declaration. This is this is assignment of a new object to a reference variable, say A1. Okay? And here the code on the left hand side says that A1 is of the type lion. Similarly, line number 29, the assignment is happening of the line object to a reference variable A2 of the type animal. Animal is a super type of lion, right? So we have seen the implication of the right hand side of the equal to code, which helps in decision of, you know, this method called dispatch dynamically. But we have still not discussed the impact of this right and left hand side of the code. So let's try to understand the impact of this left hand side of the code. Before that, let's open all the classes one by one, and let's have a look at it so that it's in our memory and we are able to relate when we start the discussion. So the animal class has got two variables. I'm not bothered about the variables as of now. I'm bothered about this eat method, which has got eat method, and this eat method returns animal eating animal food. Then we have got its two subclasses, the domestic element animal, which extends animal class. Okay, this domestic animal doesn't have the overridden method of the eat method, overridden version of the eat method, so no problem. In wild animal, we have got eat method, which is an overridden method of the eat method available in the parent animal class, as well as can be trained method, which returns a boolean value. This is also part of the wild animal. Can be trained method was also part of the domestic animal. Okay, so this can be trained method is not available in the animal class. Okay, rather can be trained is a name that is not very compatible to the convention. So let me refactor it, or rather change it. So let me say is trainable, is trainable. So it makes more sense when we return a value as a Boolean value, true or false. So this name makes more sense. Let's change the same name to the wild animal also. So the animal class has got just the eat method. The domestic animal and the wild animal, they have either one of them, like wild animal have got the overridden version of the eat method and one extra method, which is trainable. The domestic animal chooses not to have the overridden version of the eat method, but the extra method is trainable is there. Okay? The behavior of this trainable method of both domestic animal and wild animal are just opposite. Okay? Then we have got lion.java, which has got a overridden version of the eat method. Okay? Let's define another method, public wild hunt. Wild hunt. So lion gets its food by hunting. So let me add some code to it. Lion is hunting. Okay. So another layer of method, that is the hunt method, which is added to the lion class, which was not available in the wild animal, as well as it was not available in the animal class. Okay. Similarly, cow. So cow doesn't hunt, but let me say it has got a method graze, public wild graze. Okay. And let's say it prints a message, cow is grazing grass. So that's again, this graze method is a new method that has been introduced in the cow class, but it's not available in the domestic animal and is also not available in the animal class. Now to understand it, let's use the whiteboard. So we have got a class called as animal class. It has got eat method. Then another class which is the domestic animal. Animal has been extended from the animal class, and similarly wild animal class is also extended from the animal class. Okay, these both are extended. Okay, we use the keyword extend in the code, right? Then we have got lion, which is an extension to the domestic animal lion class, and we have got a class cow, which is an extension to the domestic animal class. Okay, it extends here the extension to it. Let's forget about the rest of the classes as of now. So this domestic animal class has got an additional method which was not available in the animal class, and that method is trainable, right? And so this method is also available in wild animal. So is trainable is a new method at this level of the code. That means at this level of the code, we have added is trainable method. Is trainable method which returns a Boolean value. Is trainable. Correct? Now here in cow, we have got a method graze. Correct? In lion, we have got a method hunt. ठीक है? अब ये डिजाइन आपको समझ में आ रही है. This is a design. A design in terms of a notation which is something what we call as a class diagram. Class diagram where you see a number of classes and their relationships. We say this cow is extended from the domestic animal, and domestic animal is extended from the animal class. A lion is extended from the wild animal class, and the wild animal is extended from the animal class. So these are the names of the classes. These are the names of the classes. ठीक है? Guys, clear है? Any questions? Okay. So I can say that domestic animal is an extension to animal class. Now, what is the meaning of this statement? Domestic animal is an extension to the animal class. Anyone, please? I have written a statement. Yeah.
सर मतलब वो एक दूसरे से कनेक्टेड है.
Connected तो है, but how? Domestic animal is an extension to the animal class.
मतलब उसका आगे कंटिन्यू कर रहा है, उसको एक्सटेंड कर रहा है. ऐसा
कंटिन्यू कर रहा है, एक्सटेंशन कर रहा है. एक्सटेंशन either in terms of behavior or in terms of data element, that is variables. So you can see animal contains only one method, eat. Domestic animal contains the eat method, which is either overridden inside the domestic animal class or it is being inherited from the animal class. So eat method is always there. Plus it has an extension of is trainable method. So it's providing an extension in the behavior. That means its behavior is extended to the limit of what behavior is provided by the animal class. Guys, okay? हम क्या कह रहे हैं हिंदी में बताता हूँ एक बार. Let me just explain the same thing in Hindi. डोमेस्टिक एनिमल क्या है? इट्स एन एक्सटेंशन टू द एनिमल क्लास. तो जब एक्सटेंशन की हम बात करेंगे तो इसका मतलब कोई चीज को एक्सटेंड करता है कब कहते हैं? जब वो कोई एडिशनल चीज उसमें ऐड करे, राइट? तो या तो उसकी प्रॉपर्टीज में यानी वेरिएबल्स में एडिशन हो जाए या उनके बिहेवियर यानी मेथड्स में एडिशन हो जाए. ठीक है? तो एनिमल क्लास के अंदर अगर हम बिहेवियर की बात करें तो ईच मेथड ऑलरेडी था. वो ईच मेथड जो हो रहा है वो आपके पास ओवरराइड होकर के या फिर इनहेरिट होकर के डोमेस्टिक एलिमेंट के अंदर भी डोमेस्टिक एनिमल के अंदर भी मिल रहा है. प्लस डोमेस्टिक एनिमल ने एक एक्सटेंशन यानी एक एडिशन प्रोवाइड किया, इज ट्रेनेबल. ये एक एक्सटेंशन हो गया बिहेवियर में. अगर कोई नया वेरिएबल ऐड करता तो वो एक्सटेंशन होता डाटा में या वेरिएबल में या प्रॉपर्टीज में, आप कह सकते हैं. ठीक है? सिमिलरली आई कैन से काउ इज एन एक्सटेंशन टू domestic element. Cow is an extension to the domestic animal, and cow is also an extension to the animal class because it is providing an added behavior. Graze is a new method for the cow which is not available in the domestic animal or in the animal class. Guys, okay?
yes sir, yes.
एकदम आप मतलब को ठीक से समझिए उसको. ठीक है? एक्सटेंशन कहने का मतलब क्या है? एक्सटेंशन इज अ टर्म, टेक्निकल टर्म which is you will hear very often. So domestic animal is an extension to the animal class. Similarly, cow is an extension to the domestic animal, and also it's an extension to the animal class because it provides its own new behavior. So it's extension in terms of behavior. ठीक है? अभी हम सिर्फ behavior की बात कर रहे हैं. अगर variables में भी extension होता तो हम उसकी बात करते हैं. Similarly, I can also say animal class is a generalization to the domestic animal class. एनिमल क्लास क्या है? जनरलाइजेशन, यानी जो सुपर टाइप है वो क्या है? जनरलाइजेशन है. इट इज मोर जनरल, इट इज मोर जनरल, राइट? If we have a common code which will belong, which we want to belong to every child classes in the hierarchy, we will put that code as a general code in the super type. Clear है? Guys,
Sir, please repeat again.
okay. Just like we said, domestic animal is an extension to the animal class. That means domestic animal is adding something in terms of either behavior or in terms of attribute to the animal class, with its own addition or extensions. Similarly, I am making another statement that animal class is a generalization. It's more general to the domestic animal class. If we say animal, okay, so we are not talking about whether this animal is a domestic animal or it's a wild animal. So that's a more general term I'm using, right? And so will the attributes and the behavior which will belong to the animal class. That will be more general, because that will be applied or that will be inherited to all the child classes, whether it be a domestic animal or it's a wild animal. Correct? जो ऊपर वाले सुपर टाइप है उनको मैं कह रहा हूं कि वो जनरलाइज है, ज्यादा जनरल है, ज्यादा आम है. ठीक है? इट कंटेन समथिंग विच इज कॉमन टू एवरीथिंग विच इज बीनीथ.
सर बेसिकली दोनों स्टेटमेंट तो सेम ही है ना?
सेम ही है बट वाइस वर्सा.
हाँ जी सर.
मतलब एक ही बात को दो तरह से कह रहे हैं.
जी जी जी.
ठीक है? इसी बात को दो तरह से कह रहे हैं. तो जो एक्सटेंशन है बेसिकली ये क्या हो रहा है? ये आपका स्पेशलाइजेशन हो रहा है. जैसे होता है ना, एमबीबीएस करने के बाद लोग एमडी करने जाते हैं. पीपल डू एमबीबीएस देन दे गो फॉर एमडी. एमडी इज मोर स्पेशलाइजिंग, राइट? ठीक है? तो जो कॉमन सारे ही डॉक्टर्स जो है वो एमबीबीएस का कोर्स पढ़ते हैं. दैट इज कॉमन, दैट इज जनरलाइज्ड. But when they go for MD, they go for a specialization. Now they study for a specific field. Cardiology study for heart-related ailments. A dentist will study for dental is entirely a different field. But say for example, a neurologist will study about the brain-related problems, and so on, right? So if you look at the hierarchy, then the more you are moving towards the top of the hierarchy, you are moving towards generalization. Okay? And the more you are moving towards the bottom side, you are moving toward specialization. And this specialization is achieved through extension. You add something to make it more specialized, right? In those classes which are at the down towards the hierarchy. Clear है?
यस सर.
ठीक. अब ये कंसेप्ट आप याद रखना कि भाई एनिमल क्लास जनरलाइज्ड है, यानी बहुत कॉमन चीजें हैं, सिर्फ वही उस पर डिफाइन की गई हैं. और जो चीजें स्पेसिफिक होती जा रही हैं, जैसे डोमेस्टिक एनिमल के लिए और वाइल्ड एनिमल के लिए, इस लेयर के लिए ये टर्म हमारा इस ट्रेनेबल या ये जो बिहेवियर है, ये इस ट्रेनेबल मेथड जो है, दिस बिकम्स मोर स्पेसिफिक. सो इट इज नॉट पुट इनटू द जनरलाइज्ड version of the code which is animal class. Rather it has been put inside this layer which is at the level of domestic animal and wild animal, which are the second layer of inheritance. Okay? This is multi-level inheritance, right? It has three levels. Okay? Similarly, graze and hunt are the methods which belong to the third level of inheritance. Okay? They are more specialized methods, or they are rather extensions. ठीक है? अब इस डिस्कशन को दिमाग में रखिएगा. प्लीज कीप दिस इन योर माइंड, दिस डिस्कशन, एंड देन वी आर मूविंग टुवर्ड्स द कोड टू अंडरस्टैंड. लेट्स गो टू द टेस्ट एनिमल क्लास. See, look at this line. Animal A2 is equal to new line. So reference variable is the most generalized type, which is animal, and the object that will become will be of most at the third level of inheritance, which is of the line class. Okay, guys. Okay,
Yes, sir.
वेरिएबल का नेम क्या था? A2 था, राइट? A2. अब A2 पे जाके अगर मैं डॉट ऑपरेटर लगाता हूँ, put a dot operator on the reference variable A2 and let me press control space. What are the methods that you can see here? You can see the each method, right?
Yes, sir.
Guys, and this each method here after the hyphen in a dim color, you can see it's coming from the animal class.
Yes, sir.
Okay, but can you see the hunt method in the line class?
No.
मैं स्क्रॉल कर देता हूँ. हंट मेथड कहीं आपको दिख रहा है?
No.
No. Can you see is tradable method which was in the parent class of the line class, which was wild animal?
No, sir.
That means what methods you are allowed to invoke on a reference variable at the compile time. It now doesn't depend upon the object that will be available at the time of execution. It depends upon the reference type, because reference type make a promise that this A2 is a reference variable of animal type. Animal type has got eat method, so you are only allowed to call the eat method. That's fine. But if you try to call is trainable, right? That's not available. Is trainable is not available here for the animal type, because at the compile time it's not looking at the object. The object will come into picture when the code is in execution, right? It could be any subclasses. So the compiler doesn't know this, that what object is going to come at the execution time. Okay, it's just looking at the reference type. So the reference type is A2, is of type animal. This reference type A2 is of type animal. So you are allowed to write a code which can call a method which is only available in animal class, which is the eat method, not the method which is available in wild animal, which is trainable, not the method which is available in the line class, that is hunt method. So these methods are not available for invocation at the compile time. So compiler is going to check it, and if you try to invoke it, here the ID is showing you. Otherwise, if you open a notepad and start typing over there, notepad will not tell you anything. But when you try to execute that code, if you try to invoke a method which is from the wild animal or which is from the line class, then you will get a compilation error that this method is not available for this particular type of reference variable, which is A2 of the type animal. समझ में आई बात?
Yes, sir.
ठीक है. अच्छा, अगर यहाँ एनिमल की जगह मेरे पास क्या होता, ये वाइल्ड एनिमल का ऑब्जेक्ट होता, रेफरेंस टाइप होता, नॉट ऑब्जेक्ट. वाइल्ड एनिमल का रेफरेंस टाइप होता. ठीक है, वाइल्ड एनिमल. ठीक है, A2 वाइल्ड एनिमल का होता. अब कंट्रोल स्पेस कर रहे हैं, तब क्या दिखेगा मुझे? रीड भी दिखेगा और ट्रेनेबल भी दिखेगा. ठीक है, हंट अभी भी नहीं दिखेगा, राइट? दैट मीन्स आई कैन कॉल is trainable, and that doesn't have a problem, because the reference type is now wild animal, and wild animal promises that whether I override the eat method or not, it doesn't matter. I will get the eat method which is available from the animal class, or I will choose it to override it. Doesn't matter. But I will also provide an extension of is trainable. That means you can also invoke is trainable method on anything which is wild animal. Okay? So the limitation is extended to little more, relaxed way. So test animal can basically now run eat method. I mean, you can write the code to execute the eat method as well as for is trainable on A2. Okay. If this is loin, as in the case of A1, if this is loin, then A2 will have option for all the three methods. Then you can see each method, you can see is trainable method, and you can also see, there must be hunt method. Hunt method. You can see the hunt method also. You can see the hunt method is coming from the line class. It's showing it's line, right? Hyphen line. The is trainable method is showing with the hyphen wild animal, that is coming from the wild animal. That is, the inclusion is in the wild animal. The eat method is an overridden method of the animal eat method and the wild animal eat method, and it's basically being picked from the line class because it's overridden. So it will be picked from the line class. So you have the option for all three. You can also call the hunt method, and that's perfectly fine. Okay. So the left hand side of this equal to in these lines basically puts a restriction on what variables you can assess and what methods you can call, right, while writing the code. That means while the compilation time. So ठीक है. तो यहाँ पे आपको अगर reference variable animal का है, then you can only assess the reference the attributes of animal class and the methods of the animal class. ठीक है. If it's of the wild animal, then you can only assess all the attributes which is in the wild animal as well as visible elements of attributes of the animal class. Similarly, it goes for the method also. If it's wild animal, then you can assess the visible, methods and the attributes of either the wild animal class or the animal class. And if it is lion, then you can assess all the three, whatever is visible. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Now, what if we decide to do something like this? Let me say it's animal. It's animal. A1 is animal. अभी A1 में क्या दिखेगा मुझे? I will just be able to see the eat method. Not is trainable and not hunt method, right? क्योंकि reference type animal का है. Clear?
Yes, sir.
Okay. So let me make certain changes. Like for example, let me put this A1 inside a bracket, and here let me put line. Okay. Here, and let me put everything in a bracket. Okay. Now let me put a dot operator. Let's see. And define for test animal. मदद को ले रही है. Just for number. अच्छा ये ब्रैकेट इसलिए ले लिया है इसलिए इसको कह रहा है. सॉरी 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 मिस्टेक. ऐसे को फॉर्मेट बना दिया था मैंने, वो कैसे करेगा काम. ठीक है. अब इसको ब्रैकेट यहाँ पे है तो रखते हैं. Now you can see A1, A1, right? Compiler gone for this line number 28, and you can see if I press Control space, it's giving me the option to call eat method. It's giving me the option to call is trainable method. It's giving me an option to call the hunt method. All three, right? What I have done here, I have done a explicit cast. That means I am saying that, okay, I know that the reference variable, it is declared of the type animal. And so there is a restriction that I am only allowed to invoke any method or access any attribute which belongs to the animal class. But I am telling you explicitly, with an explicit cast, that at the runtime, it's going to be a line object itself. So I am satisfying the compiler, don't worry about it. Then treat it as a line and then call the method which is available in the line class. That is the hunt method. So I'm putting a explicit cast. Yes, okay. समझ में आया ये दोबारा रिपीट करूं?
यस सर आ गया.
आ गया, ठीक है. Now what about if here in place of lion I would have declared it to be an animal itself? यहाँ मैं लाइन को अगर एनिमल से जो हाईलाइटेड एरिया ब्लू में जो आप देख पा रहे हैं स्क्रीन में कोड के अंदर लाइन नंबर 27 पे जो ऑब्जेक्ट बना रहा हूं मैं, if I remove this highlighted area from lion to animal, what will happen? Or lion to wild animal, say for example, what will happen?
सर मे बी कंपाइलर एरर आएगा.
Let's see. You won't get a compiler error because you have taken a guarantee on your own. You have satisfied the compiler. Okay, that in future you are sure to get the object of not of the type animal but of the type lion. You have made a promise. अभी आपको लग रहा होगा कि भाई ये तो सामने सामने मुझे दिख रहा है, तो मुझे जब मैं देख सकता हूँ तो कंपाइलर क्यों नहीं देख सकता है? वो भी पार्स करके देख सकता है, राइट? क्लियर है? लेकिन कंपाइलर उस बात को नहीं देख रहा है. वो कह रहा है आप जो एश्योर करेंगे हम उस पर चलेंगे. आप जो प्रॉमिस कर रहे हैं कि भाई ये जो A1 है ये रन टाइम पे तुमको लाइन मिल जाएगा, तो फिक्र मत करो. और जब लाइन मिल जाएगा तो तुम उस हंट मेथड भी कॉल कर सकते हो. तो द कंपाइलर इज सेटिस्फाइड. Okay, this is the promise. Like you are saying that okay, this reference variable A1 will at the runtime will always hold an object of the line type. I am explicitly casting and saying this, declaring this. So the compiler you should not worry. I am taking the responsibility. And when you will get the object of line, then you will be able to call the hunt method on it because the hunt method is defined in the line class. So don't worry about it. Compiler is going to believe you. Now you must be wondering if I can see that the object that is going to be, available over here, it's going to be of the animal class, right? Why not the compiler is, able to see this and parse this, and it's not intelligent enough to figure out that it's going to be animal itself and give me a compilation error? You are making a wrong promise. That's not possible. Guys, getting the question or not? Are you getting my question or not?
नो सर.
No. Okay. Listen again. What I'm saying is that जब तक यहाँ पे लाइन था एनिमल की जगह तब तक तो ठीक था. ठीक है, कंपाइलर को भी दिख रहा है भाई ये लाइन मिलेगा हमको, और हमने प्रॉमिस भी कर रखा है कि हम आपको लाइन ही देंगे, और जब लाइन आपको मिल जाएगा तो उस रेफरेंस वेरिएबल A1 पे आप हंट मेथड कॉल कर लीजिएगा. ठीक है, ये हमने प्रॉमिस की थी, तब तक ठीक था. लेकिन अभी तो हमको भी दिख रहा है और कंपाइलर को भी दिखना चाहिए कि भाई ये क्या चीज है. ये एक्चुअली हमने लाइन का ऑब्जेक्ट बना ही नहीं रहे, हम एनिमल का ऑब्जेक्ट बना रहे हैं. अब अगर ये कोड रन करेगा तो क्या होगा? लेट मी रन दिस कोड एंड लेट्स सी व्हाट हैपेंस. लेट्स रन दिस कोड. At the runtime, we are getting class cast exception. That means the difference variable is actually getting the animal object and not the line object. And we are trying to cast it to the line. So we are getting a class cast exception, which is the reality, which will happen eventually, because we know that the object that will be created in the future is of the animal type. So my question is, if we can see this in the code, why can't the compiler can see this in the code? Compiler knows how to parse the code, right? It's checking the syntax by parsing the code, whether the syntax is okay or not. So the compiler also knows it. Okay, the object is ultimately going to be the animal itself, not the lion. So the explicit casting promise that I am making over here will never be true. This will never happen. The object will be animal itself. And when the animal object will be there at the reference held by the reference variable A1, then there is no question of calling the hunt method. So this cast is wrong. And when I try to run it, actually, in fact, I'm getting the same exception, same error. That I'm getting the java.lang.class cast exception. Animal cannot be cast to the class lion. Okay? Animal cannot be cast to the class lion. If this would have been a lion, then my code would have successfully
Run.
executed, right? I won't see any problem. Everything's running fine. But I can see this. It's animal. I'm making a false promise just to satisfy the compiler. When I can see this problem over here, why can't the compiler see the problem? Anyone, please? ये कौन है भाई जो इतना लेट ज्वाइन कर रहा है? अनिकेत. Aniket? Aniket, can you hear me? Aniket? If this person is joined just for the purpose of attendance. Okay. So, anyways,
Yes,
you
sir.
got the question. Yeah. Aniket? Who just try to speak? So you're getting the question, right? You're getting the question now. Yes or no? Are you able to understand my question?
No, sir.
देखो मैं सिंपल सी बात कह रहा हूँ कि देखो यहाँ पे हमें दिख रहा है स्लाइड नंबर 27 पे ना कि जो ऑब्जेक्ट अल्टीमेटली बनेगा रन टाइम पे किसका बनेगा?
एनिमल का.
एनिमल क्लास का बनेगा. हमने यहाँ प्रॉमिस कर रखा है कि भाई तुम टेंशन मत लो. कंपाइलर को कहा कि तुम टेंशन मत लो भाई. रेफरेंस वेरिएबल A1 भले ही यहाँ पे डिक्लेयर हमने एनिमल टाइप कर रखा है, लेकिन हम प्रॉमिस करते हैं कि उसको एनिमल ऑब्जेक्ट नहीं मिलेगा, उसको किसी तरह से लाइन ऑब्जेक्ट मिलेगा. तो कंपाइलर ने कहा अच्छा आप कहते हैं भाई हम मान गए. डेवलपर जो है वो हमारा माई बाप है, जो कहेंगे हम मान गए. तो कंपाइलर सेटिस्फाई हो गया. कोड में कोई कंपाइलेशन एरर नहीं आई. लेकिन एक्चुअली होना क्या है, जब एनिमल ऑब्जेक्ट ही बन करके आना है तो जब हम रन करेंगे तो हमें क्या मिलेगा? क्लास कास्ट एक्सेप्शन मिल रहा है ना कि एनिमल क्लास को हम लाइन क्लास में कास्ट नहीं कर सकते. यानी जो हमें जो ऑब्जेक्ट मिला है एनिमल क्लास का मिला है और आप यहाँ पे कास्ट करने की कोशिश कर रहे हैं लाइन क्लास में हंट मेथड को रन करने के लिए, वो हम नहीं कर सकते क्योंकि ऑब्जेक्ट ही नहीं है लाइन क्लास का. तो जब लाइन क्लास का ऑब्जेक्ट ही नहीं है तो हंट मेथड को आप कॉल ही नहीं कर सकते. ठीक है. और हंट मेथड को कॉल करने से पहले आप कास्ट कर रहे थे, इसको कन्वर्ट कर रहे थे इसको एक्सप्लिसिटली अलग से. ठीक है, आपने मेंशन कर रखा है. So that's not possible. So we are getting a runtime exception, right? We are getting exception at the runtime. क्लियर है? यार तो क्लियर है?
यस सर.
तो जब हमको ये बात दिख रही है कि भाई ये अल्टीमेटली एनिमल क्लास का ही ऑब्जेक्ट बनने वाला है और हमको समझ में आ रहा है कोड देखे कि एक्सेप्शन होगा, प्रॉब्लम आएगी रन टाइम पे, तो कंपाइलर इसको क्यों नहीं रोक ले रहा है? यहीं पर कंपाइलर पार्स कर रहा होगा टोकन बाय टोकन. फाइनाइट ऑटोमेटा पढ़ा है ना आपने? टोकन बाय टोकन ये पार्स कर रहा होगा कि अच्छा प्रेफरेंस टाइप A1 का क्या है, एनिमल है. जो न्यू कीवर्ड उसने देखा तो कह रहा है अच्छा यहाँ पे तो जो एक्चुअल ऑब्जेक्ट जो बनेगा फ्यूचर में वो न्यू से शुरू हो रहा है. तो न्यू देख के समझ गया नया ऑब्जेक्ट असाइन हो रहा है, इसके बाद इक्वल टू चुके लगा हुआ है, तो उसने देखा ये भी एनिमल है. फिर अगले लाइन पे उसको देख रहा है कि अच्छा हमने लाइन को ऐड कर दिया है तो कास्ट कर दे रहे हैं. तो हम लाइन को कैसे कास्ट कर देंगे जब वो एनिमल ऑब्जेक्ट हमको मिलना है फ्यूचर में?
मुझे लाइन यहाँ पे कास्ट तो जो लाइन यहाँ पे कास्ट हो रहा है, ये रेफरेंस चेंज हो रहा है या ऑब्जेक्ट चेंज हो रहा है? मतलब
रेफरेंस चेंज नहीं हो रहा, रेफरेंस वेरिएबल ए1 ही है ऑफ द
हाँ
टाइप एनिमल.
हाँ
वी आर प्रॉमिसिंग दैट, सी, अगर ये चीज नहीं होती, ये कास्टिंग अगर नहीं होती, तो क्या होता, हमें कंपाइलेशन एरर मिलता, कहता द
जी
मेथड हंट इज अनडिफाइंड फॉर द टाइप एनिमल. ठीक है, क्योंकि आपने रेफरेंस वेरिएबल एनिमल डिक्लेयर किया. अभी तक हमने डिस्कस किया रेफरेंस वेरिएबल को देख करके कंपाइलर आपको मेथड्स या रेफरेंस या एट्रीब्यूट्स को एक्सेस करने को अलाउ करेगा. तो रेफरेंस वेरिएबल उसको एनिमल का दिख रहा है, एनिमल टाइप का. तो वो कह रहा है कि भाई एनिमल टाइप के अंदर कोई हंट मेथड है ही नहीं, द मेथड हंट इज अनडिफाइंड फॉर द टाइप एनिमल. ठीक है, तो आप कॉल नहीं कर सकते. बट व्हाट वी हैव डन, वी हैव done an explicit cast. We have made a promise that don't worry, the reference variable a1 will hold an address of the loin object. ठीक है, not the animal object, not the wild animal object. ठीक है, it will hold the reference object of, reference variable a1 will hold the object of lion object at the runtime. So ये पूरी चीज को मैंने a1 को लाइन में कन्वर्ट किया, कास्ट किया. कास्ट करने के बाद पूरे को ब्रैकेट में लगा करके उसके बाद जाकर के हंट मेथड को इन्वोक किया, चलाया. तो कंपाइलर अभी देख के समझ जा रहा है कि अच्छा ठीक है, आप कह रहे हो कि भाई a1 को एक्चुअली ऑब्जेक्ट जो मिलेगा वो लाइन का मिलेगा, ये आप बता रहे हैं कास्ट करके मुझे. तो मैं यहाँ से यहाँ के कोड को मान लेता हूँ कि यहाँ पे एक ऑब्जेक्ट आपको मिला लाइन का. तो जब लाइन का ऑब्जेक्ट मिला तो उसके उस ऑब्जेक्ट के क्लास के अंदर हंट मेथड डिफाइंड है, तो मैं हंट मेथड कॉल कर दूंगा जब रन करूंगा तो. और जब हम रन कर रहे हैं तो ये जो फेल हो जा रही है, क्योंकि उसके जस्ट एक लाइन पहले आपने पहले ही कोड लिख रखा है कि एनिमल क्लास ही मिलेगा उसको. समझ में आ रही बात?
यस सर।
तो जब जब हमको ये बात दिख रही है, हम देख करके समझ सकते हैं, तो कंपाइलर तो भाई मशीन है, उसमें तो उसको तो ज्यादा इंटेलिजेंट इस चीज को कोड कर सकते हैं हम, कि अगर पहली लाइन में आपने डिक्लेयर कर रखा है कि आप एनिमल क्लास का ही ऑब्जेक्ट बनाओगे, तो यहाँ जो आप प्रॉमिस कर रहे हो फेक प्रॉमिस कर रहे हो, राइट? इसको यहीं पे कंपाइलेशन देना चाहिए.
तो मुझे लग रहा है वो कंफ्यूज हो गया है।
कंफ्यूज हो गया है. क्यों कंफ्यूज हो गया है?
पहले हमने उसको बताया कि एनिमल टाइप का ऑब्जेक्ट मिलेगा, फिर बाद में हमने चेंज कर दिया, तो वो डिसाइड नहीं कर पा रहा कि ऑब्जेक्ट लॉइन कर ले या फिर एनिमल कर ले।
कंफ्यूज इसलिए हुआ है क्योंकि अगर हमेशा ऐसी कंडीशन रहती जहां पे हमें ये विजिबल होता, ठीक है, तब तो ठीक था. लेकिन हमेशा ऐसा नहीं होगा जहां पे ये चीज पहले से एक लाइन पहले के कोड में डिक्लेयर्ड होगी कि उसको एनिमल कोड ही मिलना है, एनिमल ऑब्जेक्ट ही मिलना है, जैसा हमको दिख रहा है बीइंग अ डेवलपर. तो ऐसी श्योरिटी कहीं नहीं होगी. श्योरिटी क्यों नहीं होगी? हो सकता है उसको ऑब्जेक्ट मेथड कॉल के अंदर से मिले, हो सकता है उसको डायनेमिक रन टाइम पे कीबोर्ड के इनपुट से मिले. अभी वो कोड करके मैं दिखा देता हूँ आपको एग्जाम्पल के तौर पे, तो आप समझ जाएंगे. ठीक है, तो यहाँ पे तो गारंटी एक लाइन पहले हम देख पा रहे हैं, और हम कह रहे हैं कंपाइलर क्यों नहीं देख पा रहा है. अभी एक कोड मैं आपको लिख के दिखाता हूँ. लेट्स से फॉर एग्जांपल न्यू क्लास टेस्ट डायनेमिक बाइंडिंग, डायनेमिक बाइंडिंग ही नाम दे रहा हूँ मैं. ठीक है, लेट मी हैव मेन मेथड इनसाइड इट. ठीक है, नाउ लेट्स से आई एम डिक्लेयरिंग अ वेरिएबल ऑफ द टाइप एनिमल ए. ठीक है, सिर्फ डिक्लेयर किया. नाउ if I put a dot operator, I can see only the each method. I cannot see the isTrainable method or hunt method, right? Correct? Only each method is available because type is animal. This is the promise made. Okay? Now let me see scanner scan equal to new scanner. Here let it put system dot in semicolon C A control shift O. Import will come. I will choose this import, and import statement has been added. My scanner class is ready. System.out.println. Enter your choice. Okay. And dot text. I'm reading a word. and let me put in a string variable choice. Okay, if choice is equal to dot equals, आप कंपेयर कर रहे हैं अब एक स्ट्रिंग से, राइट, विच इज एन ऑब्जेक्ट, तो यू वोंट यूज डबल इक्वल टू, इसके आगे भी डिस्कस करेंगे। और लेट मी मेक इट सिंपल, नेक्स्ट इंट कर देते हैं, नेक्स्ट इंट कर देते हैं, ठीक है, इफ चॉइस इक्वल टू रहने देते हैं, वरना फिर कंफ्यूजन होगा, तो आगे डिस्कस करेंगे तब ऐसा करेंगे, ठीक है। इफ चॉइस डबल इक्वल टू 1, अब उस कंडीशन में हम क्या करेंगे, ए इज इक्वल टू न्यू एनिमल, ठीक है। एल्स इफ choice is equal to 2, a is equal to new wild animal, ठीक है। else if choice is equal to 3, a is equal to new lion, okay। Else let's say system out of println not a valid option, valid choice, ठीक है। अब कोड देख के आपको समझ में आ रही है बात कुछ कुछ। The reference variable of the type animal, what object in reality it will hold will not depend at the time when the program is in execution, whether if I enter 1, it will allocate an object of animal type to the reference variable A. If I enter 2, it will allocate an object of wild animal to the A. And if I enter a choice 3, then it will allocate an object of lion to the reference variable of A, which is of the type animal. Now the compiler doesn't know what option you are going to press at the runtime. क्लियर है?
यस सर।
ठीक है। अब इस कोड को हम रन करेंगे, अगर इस कोड को, तो अब हम पे डिपेंड करता है कि भाई हम क्या इनपुट दे रहे हैं इसको। अगर मैंने 1 दिया, ठीक है, एक काम और कर देते हैं, साथ में जो भी ऑब्जेक्ट बन रहा है, ठीक है, सिस्टम डॉट आउट डॉट प्रिंटलन ए डॉट ईट मेथड को कॉल कर दे रहे हैं, ठीक है। क्या एरर आ रही, कंपाइलेशन क्या आ रही मेरे पास, बताइए। सिंपली ए डॉट ईट हमें करना था ना, प्रिंटलन नहीं लगाना था, क्योंकि वो ऑटोमेटिकली प्रिंट कर रहा है, जो बार बार गलतियां मैं करता हूँ और बार बार करेक्ट करता हूँ, राइट, वो कहता हूँ मैं। इट्स नॉट रिटर्निंग, a dot int method is not returning anything which is the type string. Now that problem is gone. The error has shifted to a different error. The local variable a may not have been initialized. I told you that local variable, this is the method local variable animal a, this will not take a default value. So either we need to initialize it with a new animal, or I can say that this animal is declared at not at the method level but at the instance level. So let me say animal a. Yeah. Now the compiler is going to get it, because ultimately it is going to take a null value. In that case, I make it get a, you know, let me get a, uh, exception that animal a variable is pointing to the null pointer exception if it is not initialized to anything, ठीक है। अब इसको रन करके देख लेते हैं। अभी स्टैटिक को भूल जाइए, बट प्रॉब्लम उसके लिए परेशान नहीं हुई। अभी 1 अगर एंटर किया तो a डॉट ईट ने क्या प्रिंट करा, एनिमल ईटिंग एनिमल फूड, बिकॉज ऑब्जेक्ट वाज that was created and assigned to reference variable A was of animal. Similarly, let me run it again. If I enter 2, then this code was executed. Wild animal object was created, and the eat method of the wild animal took the charge. The overridden method, wild animal eating wild food, is the response from it. Similarly, if we run at the third time, okay, 3, 3, then the object of lion was created and lion eating flesh is printed. Okay. And what will happen if we print if we give input anything apart from 1 to 3? What will happen? Tell me.
Not a valid choice.
Not a valid choice. We are expecting this to be printed. Okay, this may print, and then what will happen? The code will terminate normally.
Sorry, sir.
Try to it will the code terminate normally after printing this message?
Sir, animal object करेगा.
We have just a reference type. We have not assigned an animal object. So by default, a class variable which is not initialized and it's an instance variable, it will get a default value of null. So we are trying to call eat on null, right? ठीक है? तो देखिए क्या होता है एक बार. Let me enter 0 for example. ठीक है? Then not a valid choice, that will be printed. After that, the second line has to execute a dot eat, and because a was pointing to null, you get an exception. Java.lang.null pointer exception, that you are trying to call a particular method on something which is null, which is not an object. Okay?
Okay, sir. Okay.
So now in this case, as you can see that it's not visible to the compiler that what object is going to be assigned. Similar case may happen when we try to pass a complete list of different types of animal. Okay? Correct? Just like in the zoo class. In the zoo class, we had a parameter which is the array list, and we had got this list or array list, whatever we decide to have. It will have all objects which are compatible with animal. So there could be in this list, there could be lion object at some index, there could be wild animal object at some index, there could be domestic animal at some index, there could be object of animal class itself at some object. Okay? And then we are calling the eat method. So we don't know which object is going to come next. So there is no question in that case. The compiler is going to figure out that the promise is fake, right? As in the case here, where we as well as the compiler can also figure out, right? So this is a very, very special case where we know it. Okay? The compiler is not going to treat this special case. It will treat a general rule that if you have made a promise, then I'm going to be blind. I will follow you. And if there is a problem, that problem will appear at the runtime, and then you are on your own. So this intelligence won't work here, because this is one situation. In many other situations, it's not possible for the compiler to decide what actual object may come. And then it will have to ultimately depend upon your promise itself. ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
तो रीजन समझ में आ गया कंपाइलर ऐसा क्यों बिहेव करेगा.
जी सर.
तो अगर इस टाइप का कोड दिखे आपको तो आप समझ जाएंगे कि क्या होने वाला है रन टाइम पे, और कंपाइल टाइम पे कोई एक्सेप्शन, कोई कंपाइलेशन एरर नहीं आएगी. एग्री?
Yes, sir.
So that's it guys for today's class. So as I told you, next class will be on 20th, because we are going to have the vacations. Tomorrow probably Professor may take the class, so I'm not disturbing tomorrow's schedule. We had 3 classes in this week, and till today's lecture, we will have a test on 25th, as declared yesterday also. So you have to use your vacations very, very smartly, so that you are able to not only study but practice. ठीक है? till today's lecture, which I will upload today, but today evening. It will come to me in an hour or so. Then I will be able to upload it.
सर
But
स्टार्टिंग
I'm
से
talking
लेक्चर 1 से लेक्चर 13 तक।
लेक्चर वन से लेक्चर 13 तक। पहले टेस्ट में लेक्चर 1 से लेक्चर 10 तक था, अब लेक्चर 1 से लेक्चर 13 तक था। But these three lectures from lecture 11, 12, and 13, they itself are enough to be equal to the first 10 lectures. जितना कुछ इसमें कॉम्प्लेक्सिटी है उसके हिसाब से देखा जाए तो कवर करने में, ठीक है। ओके गाइस,
ओके सर,
ठीक है,
थैंक यू
फ्रॉम
सर।
लेक्चर टू लेक्चर 13। ओके, आई एम ड्रॉपिंग द कॉल।